It's worth mentioning that I'm obviously predominantly analog, right? But the sources are the Clear Audio Concept Moving Coil. I've had this table for 5 years. It's run like, I don't know the appropriate metaphor, say for YouTube, but it's like the only thing wrong with it is that it will just keep going forever. Like, I want to get another turntable because I just want another turntable, but I can't justify it because this thing just won't break. It's so solid. It sounds so good. You get much more out of it than what the dollar value of it, whatever it is in your country. It's like it's such a good value for money. It punches way above its weight. I've tried modifications on it, like different feet. It makes no difference. It actually degraded because it bounced around too much. Tried a turntable mat. Was worse because the platter is made out of Delrin or POM or whatever it's called, which is fantastic. The record weight is the only mod I would recommend. I mean, I even bought a linear power supply. Literally made no difference. I measured it before and after multiple times. Makes no difference. So now there's like a $300 linear power supply, looking pretty, I guess. That's running into a Bob's Devices MC step-up transformer, which is Cinemag based, I believe wound by Mr. Bob, I think himself. Have to thank an article by the late great Art Dudley for that. I was pulling my hair out, looking for a step-up transformer. Is it impedance matched? Is it, you have to match it with like cartridge impedance and then this load and that load. It's like, no. Art Dudley wrote an article about it. I liked what he said. It made sense to me. He said it sounded great. He seems to know what he was talking about. So I bought it. So never knew the guy, but cheers, Art. Effing legend. That runs into Deckware ZP3 phono stage. I'm obviously a tube guy. I think literally everything here has a tube in it. I don't know. I have nothing to say about it other than it's absolutely fantastic. I had to wait about 6 months for it. I don't know when I got it. 4 years ago, somewhere around there. 4 or 5 years ago. Had to wait 3 or 4 months for it, which now apparently is like, since like Steve and all the YouTube guys are doing stuff on Deckware, it's just going ballistic. I like Steve Deckard's approach with his design. Over catering on power, it's definitely a good idea. So you never get any draw. If you open it up and you look at the filtering circuit for the power, it's mental. It's so good. I like how he's done the tubes. It's actually the same way as the Usagi does it, where it's using one tube for left and right, and then you go into the next tube for the next stage for left and right. So what that means is you don't have to match the tubes. Obviously internally matched is a must, but tube to tube you don't have to match it, so you can play around with the sound really quite a lot. You can just choose individual tubes, you don't have to match them. It's the same as the Usagi actually. Very cool design. So it's two 12AX7s and 12AU7. And I mean, sometimes if you got a new record or a really clean record and it's got a really long running groove, you drop the record and I go sit down and I'm like, oh, did I turn the volume up? And then all of a sudden the sound comes out of nowhere. It's fantastic. I had it for a couple of years and I put in these Arizona green cactus caps on the output. I mean, Steve does offer a at factory Jupiter upgrade. I can never get a hold of Jupiters in the right value when I look at it. So I had some green cactus lying around Arizona. Absolutely fantastic. It just made it better. So sorry, Steve Deckard, if you're watching this, for changing the amp out of warranty or not getting it done by you, but it's just made it better. And I know you offer the Jupiter upgrade. I put Jupiters in a amp of my friend, which we'll go maybe visit him a bit later. But yeah, I will put Jupiters in here at some point when I can get hold of them, and we'll get into the whole cap thing a bit later, I think. So absolutely phenomenal. I liked it so much. I bought my dad, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's like the 2-watt amp that Deckware does. I bought it, and my dad's in South Africa, so I sent it to my dad. He absolutely loves it. I got him some Klipsch RP5000 speakers. As well, I've never heard his system. I was hoping to get there in this month actually, but obviously there's a new thing, so we can't go there anymore. So hopefully I'll get to hear my dad's new system that he's had for several years now in South Africa soon. But yeah, Deckware, I don't need to say anymore. All of their stuff is phenomenal, and I really want to try out those big $5,000 monoblocks one day. So hopefully I'll be in a position to buy one of those one day. Reel to reel. So this is a Technics, or Techniques, as we say in South Africa when I was growing up. Late 70s RS 1500, modified by J. Corder in the States, imported at vast expense to Dubai. It's got some custom bits on it for the tape path. It's got a flux magnetic direct out head, which I only use, that runs into the Bottlehead Audio Eros tape stage kit, which I don't think they offer anymore, which I managed to get one, which was great. I built that myself, obviously heavily modified. The internal electronics on the RS 1500 sound pretty good, but to me they're so bright, so clear, like so sterile, that I prefer to put it into tubes. So like the sound of tubes. The Bottlehead sounds great. I played around with the power supply a bit, made it a bit smoother on the ripple. Not that it was bad to start with, but it's a bit better now. I put in signal path caps in there. There's Arizona green cactus in there. There's some Dewland in there. There's got big MyFlex copper caps on the output. All of it delicious. With reel to reel, I wouldn't necessarily advise getting into it for the sole reason that you have to really like the music that's available and have a lot of money. So you can look up how much that cost. It really was quite expensive. The music that I've got for it, I've bought some of the tape project stuff. It's fantastic. I bought this 2X HD stuff, which is also fantastic. I believe Acoustic Sounds is doing things now, which I haven't heard, but it will obviously be good. I've got an international phonograph company stuff, which I think is probably the best overall. But the thing with reel-to-reel tape is that you either have to have a new recording, which the IPI, International Phonographic stuff, does, and it's fantastic, and you have to like that music, which I do. I've also luckily got some contacts in the East who, used to work in recording studios. They managed to, in the 80s and 90s, get some like legit studio copies of stuff that they would use to press records from. So like I've got a lot of Deutsche Grammophon safety masters that they use to press some of the records, which I've got there, which is mental. Not probably in the same country, but yeah, it's weird because I've got a copy of a safety copy of a record that I've been listening to since I was a kid. The number one thing in music, I think, is the quality of the recording. You can have a fantastic recording of a terrible performance and it'll sound great, but the performance is rubbish, so what's the point? Because you can still get that emotion and stuff from the performance. But if you're looking for ultimate quality, reel-to-reel is probably up there, but you're going to have to spend a lot of money trying to find those really, really good recordings, and you have issues with authenticity, especially with, don't buy anything off eBay, basically. I had this one contact in the US who had a radio station, or worked in a radio station, and he just got tons of recording sessions from the 50s. And, looking at the tape quality, I think they are probably copies of the original recordings, but they're not new. They're probably, recordings done in the 50s and 60s, and I think they're probably being dubbed in the 70s, but they sound fantastic. A lot of Miles Davis, a lot of Thelonious Monk, that type of stuff. It's kind of weird. And I think they were probably copies of original radio recordings. Around the 50s and 60s when, Miles Davis would go and do a radio session to promote something. It's like little time capsules of stuff. Honestly, at this point, I don't care if it's authentic or not. It sounds good and the performances are fantastic. What else have we got? So I've got the DAC. So I'm not massively into digital music, although my mind is changing a little bit. My DAC is a Maverick Audio Tube something plus. If you haven't heard of Maverick Audio, I would encourage you to check it out. They are, I believe, made You order them from Hong Kong or Taiwan, maybe. I don't know. Just Google it. They're a couple $100. It's got a tube in it. The tube's working as a buffer. It's running on 80 volts. And they sound fantastic. If you want to roll op amps, this is a great platform to do it. A friend, he got me into Maverick Audio. He ordered a Maverick Audio, and he was like, "This is great, but can you make it better?" So I put in some capacitors. I changed a couple of power caps. We changed the op amps, and it was amazing. It was beautiful. So he tried out. I don't want to name the names, but he tried out. So bear in mind, this cost like $250. But we put in about $100 worth of stuff into it, so maybe $300. Yeah, he was trying out DACs, which shall remain nameless. $3,500, $4,000, $2,500, $3,000, and he was like, "Yeah, these are better, but they're not that much better to warrant spending like $3,000 on it." Anyway, he did find something which I will show later, which is a bit more than $3,000, which was enough of a significant step up for him to justify spending that amount of money to get to the next level. It's got output caps in Mundorf, Eva oil, fantastic. Burson audio op amps. I play around with the op amps in these a lot. It sounds fantastic. That's running straight into a 10-year-old MacBook Air. It's got an iFi audio purifier or something in the back of it because I have power issues with this ancient laptop. It's fine. I listen to it on background music. It's good enough to be definitely audiophile level, but it's definitely not like something I put a lot of stock into, a lot of time into listening, because it's basically my background music. I used to run off an Allo DAC streamer. It eventually broke after 3 months, which is very unusual and frustrating, because before that I had an Allo DAC and an Allo DAC, actual DAC, which I still got running in the downs test system, and that's been running for like 4 years, like non-stop. Absolutely no problem, but just the transport, I couldn't get it to work. I just gave up, so I just plugged it straight in, and that's why I got this DAC, because it's super solid and dependable. So speakers, so these are the ubiquitous Klipsch Forte 3s. I don't know what to say about them. They're heavily modified, but they sound fantastic. They sound fantastic to begin with, and by spending a lot of time, not necessarily money, but spending a lot of time with them, changing them, they definitely, I could get a little bit more out of it now. I could change the crossover again a little bit. I've got some ideas around that. I could upgrade the components in the crossover. But really, they sound fantastic. The soundstage doesn't, in this room anyway, extend outside the speakers. It's all within the speakers, but there's quite a bit of depth now with the placement and the treatment in the room. The soundstage can be high. Everything is really nicely separated in space. It's really lush. I'm surprised by the amount of detail in there with the drivers that are in there. It's warm, full, like the bass is really nice and detailed. It has really nice timbre on all the instruments. I do want to upgrade my speakers, but I am building my own speakers. I've gone through a couple of prototypes. The speakers that I'm going to build is also going to be a 3-way 12-inch bass. I'm actually going with an 8-inch mid driver and a 1-inch pretty high-end horn loaded compression driver for the treble as well. I think it's going to be quite good. I haven't quite decided. I've got a big 15-inch passive radiator for them, but I can't quite get the maths to work out for the bass response I want with the passive radiator. So I think we're going to have to go with port on that. Cables, not going to go through the cables. I'm running Kimber cables, something slightly lower middle range Kimber cables, nice twisty ones. I've got some QED cables in here. I've got some cheap Amazon cables running. I do believe cables make a difference. I just have so many cables, I can't afford to upgrade all of them. I've got a couple of nice DIY power cable there. I've got this free Isotech power cable here. They do make a difference. Again, my friend's got he changes his cables, he's going through the cables. He's using AudioQuest power cables, I think they are. You can hear the difference. I went there last night and I was like, your speakers sound more open. It's not like crazy different, but your speakers sound a bit more open. And it's like, yeah, you haven't heard them with the new power cable in the amp. I was like, well, okay, it does make a difference. Like every little thing makes a difference, and eventually it all adds up. So yeah, we'll get there. So I mean, the last thing is tape. So I do a lot of restoring and fixing and modifying people's amps and components and DACs and stuff, and I wanted to get into tape cassette thing because I thought it was cool, and that's a whole story in itself. But eventually I ended up, this is about my fourth cassette deck, and I managed to find these are Tascam, I don't know, 122 Mark II or 212 Mark II or something, and I got them. They're basically broadcast quality tape decks. They're on a rack, as you can see. They were totally trash because I think they came from a radio station in Jordan. Perfectly functional, just really cosmetically trash. So I bought two. I got them for absolute steal again. I think I paid less for both of them. I think I paid 3 times less for both of them than you would pay for one that I've seen on eBay and stuff. So sound fantastic, just cosmetically changed. One is for me, one's for my dad. I think one has balanced inputs and outputs and one doesn't have balanced inputs and outputs, and a slightly different mechanism. But as soon as I can get it to my dad, I'm getting to my dad. I record a lot of stuff off records. I grew up on tapes, on cassettes. And actually turned out what happened was my dad had recorded, he got all these records and then recorded them onto cassettes, and we listened to all the cassettes because they're easier to load than putting records on. So I grew up on all these like classical and opera and stuff on cassettes that he recorded when he was in university, and then I got all the records that he recorded them from, like played once or twice. And now obviously all those cassettes are toast. I got him another cassette player, which I had the same one, it wasn't great. So now I've got him a really nice cassette player. I record stuff off the reel-to-reel onto cassette through like nice preamps and stuff. And then, I haven't done it for a long time, but I record nice music and send it to him. And I want him to have a nice tape deck. So one of those is sitting there for him when I can get it to him. And I need to get my game up on recording the tape so I can send it as well. So those are coming soon, inshallah. Yeah, I'll do another video. I'll show you the downstairs system really quickly, and we'll bounce over to my mate's house and see his setup, because he's got quite a journey as well.